to Island Minds, the mental health podcast. Please note, these episodes deal with topics that some listeners may find distressing. For suggested contacts, please see the show notes on our Facebook page after this episode. Please note that this episode deals with the following topics: psychosis, hallucinations, domestic abuse, rape, cancer, and being a carer. Welcome to Series 2 of Island Minds, the mental health podcast, or now otherwise known as the Eddie Munson Fan Club.
If you haven't watched Stranger Things Volume 4 yet, no, it's not Volume 4, it's Season 4, Volume 1. I've gotten off to a bad start. But if you haven't watched it yet, do. We're not on commission, but we are a big part of the Eddie Munson Fan Club, as Hannah says.
We are its two only Isle of Wight members, because we won't allow anyone else in it.
Very exclusive. We're getting jackets made.
We are. So Tia, it's been a while.
It has been a while. I mean, just to clarify, Hannah and I speak every day. For you guys, and for doing this, it's been a while. Did anything crop up in your life, Hannah? Any big life events for you?
I can't think of anything particularly life-changing. Had a baby. And so that was pretty big. And for our listeners who caught the last episode of Series 1, you'll remember a big part of what I talked about was the fear of dying in childbirth and all of my anxiety surrounding having a baby. Well, I'm here. It didn't all go to plan. We were in hospital for about a week, but I now have Mallory, beautiful, beautiful Mallory. She's 8 weeks old tomorrow.
Oh my goodness. I can confirm she is beautiful.
She is.
Was it our last episode or our second to last? Not that really matters.
Oh my gosh, it was the second to last. We had Michael was our last episode.
That's right. But yes, I'm glad you've let everyone know you're alive. It'd be pretty good going on my part, pretty skilled to be with otherwise.
But yeah, it was an experience. She ended up being a C-section because she just didn't want to come out. Tried all manner of induction and she was having none of it. So she obviously picked up a thing or two from my donkeys while she was inside. But yeah, so there were aspects of it that were traumatising. Some things I'm still coming to terms with, but I was very, very well supported. The midwife department were absolutely amazing, and the fact that the island now has its own mental health midwife made a huge difference to me, and she is going to make a huge difference to so many people. Because I'm going to be honest, I think back now to the actual process of having the C-section, and I don't know how I got through it. I really don't. It set off a lot of triggers for me. It was absolutely kind of a worst case scenario situation, but yeah, there was so much support there. I cannot fault how well I was looked after, and the fact that this the mental health midwifery position has only existed a short amount of time is shocking to me, because it was fundamentally a massive part of how I think I got through that. Yeah, just period, I think. So.
Well, that's amazing. I wasn't worried at all during that week. I was really relaxed.
You were even in another part of the hospital, like, I can't do anything. I was just stood outside staring at all the windows, like... My poor mum as well. She was in the same position as you. She was at work the day that we ended up going into theatre. And she was obviously, getting more and more worried. She hadn't heard from us. And then without any warning or any context, Jack just sent her a picture of me and Mallory, like, out of the blue. Like, with... So whatever she was doing at that point, I'm glad she wasn't doing something, really important and, life... saving, because
I mean, not that she is a heart surgeon, but glad she wasn't in the middle of heart surgery.
Exactly, with her phone in her hand.
Yeah. Oh, but you did so well. I'm sure. Well, I know you would underplay it because you have, but I'd just like to confirm that Hannah's a superhero. Yeah, you did so amazingly well. If you don't mind me, we don't have to include this if you don't want, but if you don't mind me saying, I found it really interesting that I think there was some assumption from people that all of your worries would just disappear.
There was. It's not how it works. And no, actually having the surgery and everything, it did kind of like activate a kind of a health anxiety sort of in me. So obviously with a C-section there is a longer recovery time, and I have really struggled, not with the fact I had a C-section, you know, I don't feel any less of a mother, but it's more, I feel quite icky is the only way I can really describe it. And it's sort of that, you know, there's lots of aches and pains, there's lots of weird sensations afterwards. It's very painful afterwards, and it's just been learning what's normal. Is it normal to feel this way? So my anxiety is manifested in new ways, so, you know, irrationally worrying about blood clots or bleeding or things going internally wrong or getting an infection, you know, all those things. Some weeks have been quite bad, like even when Mallory sleeps I haven't been able to sleep because I've been too afraid that I won't wake up, you know, things like that. So while I'm still working on it, and I have my I think I have 2 more therapy sessions left, you know, it's okay, but the anxiety certainly didn't just dissipate because I survived having her. It's just sadly not how it works. I mean, it was a big sort of, you know, fingers up to my intrusive thoughts that I've had for like 2 decades about dying in childbirth. But yeah, the anxieties they're now sort of triggered by pains or aches that I'm not used to, because it is weird. There's really weird stuff happening, but it's a journey, and I'm still on it. She, like I said, she's 8 weeks old tomorrow, and I'm not going to rush my recovery. You know, I'm sure there are people that would already be absolutely fine, but you know, this is me, and that's okay.
Well, as I said, I think you've done amazing, and I'd just like to take a moment to thank you for making time for this, and we just appreciate that Anna's doing this when her child is only 8 weeks old. Straight back into podcasting. In fact, like, you were straight back into it weeks ago. I said, you know, you hear all these things like, oh, once your friends have kids, that's it. And I was like, you've just still been, our relationship's been the same. It's just, except Mallory's there.
Obviously, in the episode we recorded where I talked about my worries and stuff, I said about like my identity and worrying about losing, you know, a part of me. And now that I've had Mallory, I'm actually okay with losing certain aspects of who I was before, because I am different. I am now a mother, and you do look at things differently, things hit differently, and your priority obviously is always one thing and one thing only, and that's Mallory. But I still, for me, have the same relationship with you. You know, my friends, I still have the same desire to see friends, to socialise. I still have the same desire to go back to work. Obviously, when I do go back to work, I will miss the socks off of Mallory, but I still miss work just as much. And gigging, so all those things are still part of me, and I'm really pleased about that. But it's just, I've gained something on top of that. So I felt for a long time I was grieving because I was about to lose a big part of who I was, but actually I haven't. I've gained something, and it's just about fitting the other things sort of around Mallory. So yeah.
Yay!
Yay!
That's amazing, honestly. Very proud.
Thank you.
Oh, such an awkward thank you.
Thank you.
It wasn't that awkward. That was me. I'm sorry.
You should be. What about you? How are you?
I am okay. I'm trying to think. Oh, that would have been the last episode I was on the podcast, wasn't it? The episode with Michael was just you guys.
It was, yes.
So, yeah, since then, been blessed with a goddaughter. You might know her.
I've heard of her.
Yeah, she's very cute. We're moving house, so that's very stressful at the moment, but that's very exciting.
Yes.
I've been doing my job a year, That was a year last week, which is nuts.
Oh my god. So a year ago you abandoned me.
No, I started it at the same time as I was at the castle, didn't I? So it was August that I abandoned you. We'll celebrate in style. Yeah. My anxiety's been a bit of an arsehole the last few months, I would say. But it's, it's just ups and downs, as with anyone.
Yeah.
And just learning to manage it. Yeah, generally I'm okay. I think.
Good.
Yeah. I'm excited to do this.
Yes. Series 2!
Yes. And how well did Series 1 go?
Series 1 went very well. So, just so our listeners are aware, in our first series, we used a host site called Acast. This time around, we're trying a new one. So we've moved across to a hosting website called Podbean. And when we left Acast, we were on, I think, just under 900 downloads. And since moving to Podbean, we've now gone over the 1,000 downloads for Series 1, which I think is really impressive. As we keep saying, we're a little, kitchen table podcast on the Isle of Wight. And 19 countries have listened to us. It's very exciting, and it's lovely that people are wanting to listen to us. It's lovely that people want to talk to us. Yeah, it's, really proud of Series 1 and really looking forward to Series 2.
Yay, 1,000 downloads! So cool. It's cool. Yeah, you're right. It is like, I'm recording this in my bedroom. I still don't have podcasting equipment. It's on my list. It did. I don't know if anyone saw it. I was like, I'll take a photo while I'm podcasting. But I was like, but it's just my face because I have no microphone. I said to you, I nearly did put cartoon ones on. If Tia had podcasting equipment, this is what it would look like.
I still vote that you do that.
I mean, I've put it up now. I never know how much of my humour to show in relation to this podcast because I can cross very quickly into unprofessional.
I kind of love that though.
Sounds like a brag, but it was more of a confession. It has done tremendously well, and we're so grateful to everyone who's listened and shared and rated and reviewed, and we're just so glad that it's not only been successful but made a difference to people, and we've had people say that to us, and it's lovely. And obviously all of our great guests, we're really thankful to them, and I'd like to thank my mum and
the Academy.
The Academy. Anyway,
in this series we will cover some new topics. We may well cover topics we've already covered in previous episodes, but what we're also going to be looking to do, because we know not everyone is confident about speaking, if you would like to share your story but in written form, we're also going to be making that an option very soon for our podcast. So keep your eye on our social media pages for opportunities like that. And just before we go over to our lovely guest, if you would like to come on to the podcast, we are still looking for interviewees for Series 2. So get in touch with us. You can email us or you can contact us via any of our social media channels. That's Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. Get in touch if you would like to have a chat with us. So Tia, tell us a little bit about the episode we've got coming up.
Yeah, so this was a great episode. Obviously, Hannah's incredibly busy. I hear, having children can, make you a little bit busy.
She sounds so lazy.
Yeah, no. Obviously, you've been very busy, so I did some interviews, which has been lovely. And our first interview was with a lovely lady called Becky. She had a lot to talk about in terms of her mental health and her physical health. She was primarily speaking to me about schizoaffective disorder. I don't know if you've heard much about it, Hannah. I know one of my colleagues has schizoaffective disorder. Before I met her, I hadn't heard of it. So
yes, it wasn't something I was familiar with either.
Yeah, and actually when I was doing some research about it, it's actually quite hard to find much on it in terms of statistics. Just as a sort of brief summary, I'm not going to go massively into explaining the disorder because Becky does such a good job of that herself. and it's an amazing interview. But schizoaffective disorder is people get symptoms of schizophrenia and bipolar disorder. So they might have symptoms with the schizo referring to psychotic symptoms and affective referring to mood symptoms. So they may have mania, depression, and psychosis. The only sort of statistic I could find said 1 in 200 people will develop schizoaffective disorder at some point in their lives, and it's more common in women. And psychotic symptoms will include, or may include, delusions and hallucinations, whether visual or auditory. One of the things Becky talks about as well as part of the delusion symptoms is delusions of grandeur. So she speaks about what that meant for her and her perception when she was at her most ill. And it's a really great interview. She's very open and honest, very informative, and she's so inspiring. Like I was blown away by her. She's wonderful guest. Thank you again, Becky. The only thing I just wanted to say, and we've said this before, but I just want to make it clear, Becky didn't or hasn't always necessarily had a great experience with services, particularly NHS services. And we talk honestly about that, but I just want to say we know that's not reflective of everyone's experience.
Yeah. And I think it's really important as a whole that we're honest about the good experiences and the bad experiences, because it is what it is. We know that there is investment, but we know that there are still big problems, and we know that a lot of people have been let down, but we also know a lot of people have been very well looked after. So I think it's important we paint an accurate picture of what's happening.
Yeah, definitely. And one of the things Becky and I spoke about that was really interesting is when people slip through the cracks. And this is a phrase that gets battered around quite a lot. And it's going to happen. But we were talking about what that actually means in real terms and the impact that has on someone's life. But yeah, I just think it's interesting. You sort of say it as in a sort of way of like it can't be helped.
Yes.
And actually, like obviously services are doing their best, and most people working services are there with the best of intentions.
Yes.
And try their best. But is it good enough for us to say people slip through the cracks?
Yeah.
But yeah, as I said, I don't want to pretend I know lots about the disorder and throw things at you when Becky's going to do such a good job of explaining it. So I think best thing is to jump into the interview.
Brilliant. Yeah.
Hey guys, this is your friendly neighbourhood co-host Tia, very nicely and let's be honest, very awkwardly, asking if you could please rate and review where possible. You can like and share our social media pages or leave us ratings on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. It's very quick and easy and we really appreciate it, and we'd love to hear your feedback. I mean, preferably good feedback because we do have anxiety, but whatever you feel like. Thank you.
Hi Becky. Thank you so much for joining us on the podcast. Really appreciate it. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing okay today.
Good. That's what we like to hear. So I'm going to kick right off and just ask you to tell me a bit about your mental health journey. Yeah, this is your space, so go for it.
Okay, so back in 2011, I started having I've been having manic blips throughout my teens.
Yeah.
My mum said it's like I'd gone out of the room and I wasn't me.
Yeah.
And she said that she'd be able to like shout at me or something and it would snap me out of wherever I'd gone in my mind back into the room. But those periods started to get bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
I wasn't very aware of what was happening. It always seems to feel like someone else takes you over.
Yeah.
And you become someone else because you're no longer you. And that's the horrible part of mania.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was severely depressed. I'd experienced an awful lot of rejection.
Mm-hmm.
I was emotionally neglected by my father. I'd experienced a lot of bullying. I'd been rejected by universities. I was having problems trying to find work, and I was being rejected from interviews and things. So various different things, bereavements and things like that, all started to build up.
Yeah.
So I started going into manic depression.
Mm-hmm.
So I was severely low whilst being high.
Yeah.
I started to hear things that weren't there. I sort of felt like the radio and the television were talking to me.
Yeah.
And most people get negative voices, but I get positive ones.
Yeah.
So instead of people saying horrible things about me, they were actually saying nice things about me. So that was quite.
Yeah.
If you're going to have it, that was quite nice.
Yeah. Yeah. I've spoken to people who've said the same, actually, because there's still so much misinformation around it, but the assumption is that it's, a negative voice, and it's not always the case, which I guess makes it even harder to separate.
Yeah. And it doesn't feel like it's coming from yourself.
Right. Yeah.
It feels like other people in the crowd or, are saying it. You don't think that it's actually coming from you.
No.
And I started to go into insomnia.
Right.
So leading up to my first episode, I didn't sleep for 3 nights in a row.
Wow.
And the thoughts patterns just got absolutely insane. It sort of felt like your mind was spinning.
Yeah.
It was just so fast, and you just And my grandeur is that I believe that I'm the mother of the universe. I created it, and
Okay.
and in my own little world, good things happen to people who deserved it, and other people were getting their comeuppance and all that sort of thing. But it was basically my mind protecting myself because it couldn't take anymore.
Yeah.
So I came downstairs to my mom, and I was talking 9 to the dozen, and I scared the living daylights out of her.
Oh.
Yeah. She had to phone her friend to go basically, something's gone wrong with Becky. What do I do?
Yeah.
Took me to A&E.
Oh, wow.
And I got admitted to the psych ward.
Yeah. Which must have been terrifying.
To begin with, I wasn't aware of where I was.
Okay.
Or what was happening to me.
Yeah.
Because the thoughts, my mind was changing what people were saying to me.
Yeah.
So I never heard what was going on at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, my mum says she doesn't understand how you can section people who have no understanding of what's going on.
Yeah, I think that's...
We're signing a piece of paper not even knowing what.
Yeah, I mean, that's often, I think, where the section happens, when people don't have the capacity. But yeah, it's, I imagine, very scary for your mum as well.
Yeah, it was terrifying for her, especially having to leave me with strangers and other people who were also losing their minds.
Yeah.
I was still very protective of her because when I was in hospital, I think she'd brought some things in for me, and I think they were checking her bag or something, even though they'd already done that.
Yeah.
And I had a go at the staff and said, "Leave my mum alone."
Oh, bless you.
Yeah, so I might not have been that with it, but I was still quite protective. So,
yeah.
But yeah, I spent a month on basically an assessment ward.
Mm-hmm.
I thought I'd spent a long week.
Yeah, because your perceptions just
Yeah.
Completely different at that stage.
Yeah. And I got moved onto a different ward, had some scans, because first of all, they believed that I had schizophrenia, which I thought was terrifying.
Yeah.
Because, of course, the stigma towards schizophrenia is everyone thinks, of the mad axeman and all the rest of it, which just isn't true.
Yeah. No, not true at all. I think we might have said this before on the podcast, but most people with mental health, and particularly those kind of conditions, are much more at risk to themselves than they are to others. It's a complete myth.
It is.
Yeah, it's really sad.
But yeah, I had scans and they proved that I didn't have schizophrenia. They just thought I had a manic episode. I was put into something called the early intervention team.
Yeah.
And I was under their care for over a year. And you'd go through the courses and things like that with Mind, and you'd learn about your mental health and different things and that sort of thing. And then I got myself into an abusive domestic relationship with one of the members at Mind. Yeah.
I'm so sorry to hear that.
He was a volunteer and I was a member, so it wasn't even meant to have happened.
No.
And I went through being threatened with violence, having my phone taken off me so I couldn't contact anyone. He'd use my bank card and try and get money off me.
Yeah.
He was taking drugs. He had schizophrenia.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I ended up being raped by him.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, so when that happened, I was trapped in the relationship. And I remember lying in the bath, thinking about the knives in the kitchen and how it would just be great if I just ended it all, because I'd never felt so low in my life, and no one really knew what was going on.
Yeah.
My mum was so concerned, but the early intervention team were busy trying to tell me how great the new relationship was and that I must stay in it, even though I continued to tell them that I felt at risk. And then they decided to start taking my the medication that I was on for my mental health. They decided to start reducing it.
Oh, wow.
So I ended up having a full-blown breakdown.
Understandably. Yeah, that sounds really lonely.
I felt very much like my mental health disorder saved my life in that situation.
Yeah.
Because the fact that I'd got so low, I then went really, really high. And in that high, you have confidence that is kind of out of this world feeling, and you can do anything. And I got myself out of the situation that I was in.
That's amazing.
And then I had to report him to higher up in my local Mind at the time, because it wasn't just me he was busy abusing, it was other people as well.
Yeah.
So I had to go through all that before I felt like I could actually address my own mental health.
Bless you. Wow.
Yeah.
Really been through it.
Yeah, and then I ended up in hospital again.
Yeah.
That was one of those, I'll go involuntary, otherwise they would have sectioned me.
Yeah.
But that's because I self-harm without actually realising that I'm doing it.
Okay.
So I'd managed to put my three of my fingers on the top of the radiator and burned my hands, but I have no real recollection of actually doing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And because I'd done that to myself, I didn't really have much choice in admitting me.
Yeah. You're incredibly strong. That is the very least I can say. But, yeah. And I think, the fact you went through all that and the fact you're sat here talking to me about it now is an indication of that.
Yeah. But the second breakdown actually helped because I actually managed to diagnose my mental health disorder.
Okay.
So I got diagnosed with schizoaffective disorder.
Yeah.
So the easiest way to explain it is that I have the psychotic symptoms of schizophrenia, coupled with the mood symptoms of bipolar.
Okay. Yeah.
And so if I start going high, it's basically if I start getting ill, the changes from high to low get quicker and quicker.
Yeah.
So instead of it being over a few months, it's over a few weeks to a few days.
Yeah.
To then hours.
And do you feel like you're at a stage now where you can see those warning signs?
Oh yes. I've learned over the years what my trigger points are.
Yeah.
Not having enough sleep.
Yeah. And I think that's a lot of the time that's the key to living with any mental illness, is just being able to be in control of it as much as you can, and knowing those triggers, knowing why you're feeling like you are, and seeing those early warning signs, because it's not a case of cure, it's recovery and managing it and ups and just going with the journey. But yeah, I imagine it's empowering to now have that control. Sounds like it was quite scary when it was first happening, and not really knowing what was happening and until you were in the middle of it.
I know how the disorder works and what the trigger points are. In recent years, I got diagnosed with anxious personality disorder.
Yeah.
They first put it as anxious personality traits, and now they've changed it into a disorder, which they now give me medication for. But at one point, to begin with, they put me on antipsychotics, which I'm still on. But the first lot they gave me is the standard one you get normally if you end up in hospital, which is olanzapine. Mm-hmm. And it's basically what I'd probably call the zombie drug, because it literally makes you drag your feet. You have no energy at all, and you find it incredibly hard to make conversation with people because your thoughts have been slowed so much that conversation becomes a huge deal.
Yeah.
And people made this assumption that because I was quiet, that therefore, I didn't like talking and all the rest of it. And then when they actually eventually, I did a meditation weekend in Brighton. And I remember going to my mum, this is easy.
Yeah.
Because I don't have any thoughts to keep putting away to the side of your mind or whatever. There isn't any. I described it as the tumbleweed.
Yeah.
Like, there are no thoughts. And she's like, yeah, I think you're drugged up too much.
Oh, bless you.
They did eventually change my medication over. I've been on quetiapine since 2013. Actually helped, and I was actually be able to communicate.
Yeah.
And talk to people.
I guess if you've been on it all these years, it continues to help.
Yeah. They did initially put me onto mood stabilizers.
Okay.
That's when I had my first battle with the PIP benefit.
Yeah.
Which I had taken off me because when I did the interview, the assessment, I was high
Right.
I'd got so stressed that I'd gone really manic. And of course, then I believe that I can do anything when I can't.
Yeah. Yeah.
And of course, the assessments, the man said that he understood, my condition, all the rest of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I got written off, so I had to fight and take it to tribunal. But under the stress of all that, I just had a mini blip in my mental health bit. Started to want to go out all night, and I have no plan of actually getting home at all. So they put me on to mood stabilizers, but then that makes you sleep until 11 o'clock in the morning, so you no longer had mornings.
Yeah. Oh, that's so hard, isn't it? It's the side effects of medication that is there to make you feel better, and sometimes it does, and that's great, but it's not as easy as just taking it and that's it. Yeah, it's a real balancing act. Must be really hard.
Yeah, I've been diagnosed with quite a number of health disorders.
Yeah,
I've got 14 now.
Okay. Are you, the way you said it, it's like you're going for a bingo or something.
I feel like I'm collecting, let's have a collection.
I love, by the way, sorry to interrupt, I just have to say I love that we're on the same humour wavelength, and I often find this with people with mental health, you just, if you don't laugh, we don't.
Oh, it's a bit. If you didn't laugh, then you'd be sat in the corner.
Yeah, exactly.
In a straight jacket, rocking yourself, crying. But I don't believe that helps at all.
Yeah, no, but it is healthy to laugh about these things where you can.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Yeah, but sorry, continue.
I got diagnosed with an extremely rare autoimmune disease.
Oh, bless you.
It's called relapsing polychondritis, and it's where the immune system attacks your cartilage and surrounding tissues.
Oh, goodness.
I'm 1 in 100 million people to get this disease. There is no cure. Wow. It's progressive, so I will just keep getting worse. And of course, you get put on immune suppressants.
Yeah.
And they're quite nasty.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I've been dealing with that.
Yes, and that's an impact on the mental health as well. Because
it does, yes.
It would for anyone.
Especially the fact that I live with the fact that if it gets into my heart, it will kill me. So I live with that every day.
Oh, bless you.
Which is quite hard. And then, of course, I've developed chronic pain and fibromyalgia on top of that because of the pain that it causes me in my joints and things. And it's quite rare for me to have it at this age anyway.
Yeah.
Majority of people with the condition don't get diagnosed until they're 50, 60. Yeah. I was in my mid-20s, and they worked out that I probably had it since being a child.
Wow.
But because it was so rare, no one knew what they were looking at. So I was having nosebleeds that lasted hours.
Right.
And then I started to get lumps on my ears.
Yeah.
They'd give me antibiotics, but the lumps wouldn't go.
Yeah.
And I had to wait until I had one that literally took over the side of my head and caused me to end up in A&E with stroke-like symptoms down one side. And then they actually decided that they might look into it. But
yeah.
I had to wait until I was, 25? Now 30, so it's...
Oh, snap.
Yeah. So I've had to go through all that. And then also I'm my mum's carer. So I've been caring for my mum since I was a teenager.
Yeah.
With her and her mental health, because I've actually managed to get her fully diagnosed with autism.
Mm-hmm.
But she's been struggling with autism for years.
Oh, bless her.
and I've been helping her and help her with her anxiety and her depression.
Yeah, on top of
everything else.
Everything else. Wow. Yeah, as I said, not doing things by halves. You're incredible. You're absolutely incredible, honestly. So it's such an inspiration. But it must be so hard. Like, do you? I'm hoping you have some strong support in place.
Not much.
No.
Have some good friends.
Yeah. Because I know I've got a friend with schizoaffective disorder, and I was saying to her today, before I met her, I hadn't even heard of it. I don't know how much support there really is for that. I mean, on top of everything else that you're dealing with, there needs to be more.
Yeah, there does.
Yeah. But I'm glad you've got some good friends, though. But
I've only been on the island for about 3 years.
Okay, so yeah, still quite recent.
Yeah, my mum wanted to do early retirement.
Yeah.
But I ended up here before her.
Yeah.
So I was here on the island for 7 months on my own.
Okay.
And then she came and joined me.
Yeah.
But on the same year, she got diagnosed with cancer. And this was in the middle of COVID. So that's what we were dealing with.
Yeah.
During COVID.
Oh my goodness.
She's in remission now, but because it was stage 4 by the time they'd found it,
yeah,
means that it's extremely likely to come back again.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah. We've only just managed to start getting some help with West Sussex Cancer Trust.
Yeah.
But it's taken my mum over a year just to contact them because she gets so anxious with things.
Yeah. Yeah.
But they are going to offer me some support as well. So that's
good.
That'd be quite nice.
Yeah. Have you ever used the Carers Lounge in Newport?
I'm under Carers Isle of Wight, but they've dropped me.
Wow.
And I have to, if I want them to help me out again, then I'm going to have to phone them up. But that's phone calls is quite difficult to do when you're mentally struggling and knowing what to say to people and how to put it. And
yeah,
phone calls aren't what I'm very good at.
No, and that's actually a really valid point, because so often people are wanting help, but they can't access it a lot of the times because the means of accessing it is a barrier. It's really hard, and then you end up stuck.
Yeah, that's why I don't understand mental health services where you're the one that has to phone them up.
Yeah.
The amount of effort that takes just to make a phone call.
Yeah.
Most people who are mentally struggling aren't going to be able to do that.
No, it's really hard. I'm really sorry. You deserve more support.
Yeah, but it's something I always have to fight. I think I'm very good at coming across like I'm coping. I'm all smiles. I'll make jokes and all that sort of thing. So people always assume that I'm doing far better than I actually am.
Yeah.
I think because I've had difficulties in sharing my feelings with people because I've done it with partners and they've dumped me because I dare to have feelings.
Yeah.
So when I get let my guard down, I've had so many times where I've been let down by the people that I've let my guard down to. I struggle to, I suppose, show how I actually am coping to people.
Yeah, it's really hard. It's a hard enough thing without that. If you've had experiences where it's not gone well, just like you said, that makes it even harder.
Yeah, it does.
I'm sorry. sucks.
Yeah.
I'm sometimes it doesn't necessarily help to hear people say that, but that's all you need them to say. So I know you wanted to talk about some coping mechanisms you've had or you found work.
Yeah, there's ways of I've learned with coping.
Yeah.
So I have plenty of coping mechanisms.
Okay.
And I have done counselling, which I paid for.
Okay.
I had counselling for 3 years. Having talk therapy really, really helped.
Yeah.
Being able to talk out issues or things that you've experienced and learning how to, I suppose, perceive them in a different way or going, oh, that makes sense. Like I did with my dad. I discussed things like what his childhood was like and what he went through so that I could understand why he treated me the way he did. It doesn't mean that, I forgive him for being a crap dad, but it was my way of being able to accept that that's why that happened, sort of thing. And I was able to put, the way I view my dad is that he's a friend. He's a friend that I call dad, because there's no point in putting things like responsibilities and expectations of him being a dad, because he proved that he's rubbish at that and he just can't do it. So it's a lot easier to view him as a friend. It takes away all that expectation of him being this, that, the other. And it still means that I can still talk to him, but it's all on when I want to talk to him now rather than
on your terms.
Yeah, it's very much on my terms now. But I didn't have him in my life for about 8 years.
Yeah.
So I found things like that, counselling and things like that, very therapeutic.
Yeah.
To changing how you view things.
Yeah.
So they sort of sit better in your mind.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And that, therapy could be so good for offering different perspectives and teaching you to get, to view those perspectives yourself, and also just processing things. It's
I'm currently going through the system at the moment. They've put me on the CBT, but I've had CBT before and I don't find it very beneficial because it feels like you're trying to put a plaster on a missing leg.
Yeah, it's
especially when the things you've been through are quite traumatic. How it's changing how I feel, how I think about this. It can, make it all go away, does it? No.
Yeah.
So I've even said to the CBT guy, we're having a chat. You can throw in the odd bit of CBT, but I can tell you that I already think the way, I should do is not negative, it's not intrusive. I don't view myself in a negative way. So, I'm doing all the things that I should be doing. So you can throw that in every so often and I can tell you how rubbish your tip is. But I just need to have a chat. But he's let me know that I'm entitled to some counselling through Mountbatten for what I went through with my mum, because I still need to talk about that.
I think what you've just described is a perfect example of person-led care and like actually asking the person what they want. You knew better than them what you needed from that.
You do know. How you should learn how your own mind works, so you should know what works and what doesn't work for you, and you should be able to say that.
100%. Yeah,
I used to say it to my psychiatrists as well. I used to put them in their place.
You said you'd had 3 years of therapy, but you'd paid for it.
Yeah.
Is that because the NHS?
Yeah, because all they offered me on the NHS at the time was CBT.
Right.
I'd just been through something really traumatic. I'd just been through abusive relationship. I'd been raped, all the rest of it. And you're offering me CBT. That's not really going to cover it, is it? You're going to need to talk these issues out.
Yeah.
So that you can find a better way of it sitting on your head that is you're not gonna be triggered every time you hear the words mentioned on the BBC and all the rest of it. Because I got, after I'd been discharged from the hospital that time, I got they put me back with the early intervention team, even though they'd helped me go crazy in the first place. They then put me back with them. So I didn't tell them what I was going through. I was having flashbacks and my counsellor said that I was basically going through PTSD.
Yeah.
But they were unaware of what I was going through or experiencing, because I didn't want to talk to them after that.
Yeah.
I didn't trust their service. Their service had helped me go back into having another episode.
Yeah.
So I no longer trusted their service, and I basically did anything I possibly could to get discharged from them. But I requested my own counselling. I managed to have community counselling, which at the time I only had to cost, I think it was only £5 a session or something. So so I could actually talk about the real hard-hitting, traumatic things that I'd been through.
Yeah. Again, you knew what you needed.
I knew what I needed.
Yeah.
First of all, they gave me art therapy, and I had one session with her, and then she left. And I said, "Was it something I said?"
Oh.
Because you're not handling it anymore. I think of what I've been through as horrible as well, that's where I leave.
That's a shame though. Did you enjoy the art therapy for the one session you had it? Or?
Yeah, I had a little bit a few years after.
Yeah.
I did a family tree thing with one of my counsellors.
Yeah.
And talked about the different relationships I have with my parents and my brother and different family members and things. And what type of relationships I had. With coping, I find being your own friend helps.
Yeah.
So how you speak to yourself in your own head, you spend most of your time in your own head, so you might as well make it a nice place to be. So I don't have any of these intrusive thoughts. I don't have an inner critic. I've learned how to make mine go away and go away.
That's
doesn't come back now.
That's amazing. Well done.
It's you have to learn to treat yourself how you treat your friends. So if you tell your friends to do something nice, you've had a really hard day, why don't you watch a nice program or read a book, or you've got to learn how to do that to yourself as well. So if you've had a hard day, then you need to do something nice to make yourself feel better.
Yeah.
So things like, doing colouring or reading a book or, doing different bits actually make you feel better inside. So you have this conversation with yourself of, this has been really hard, let's do something nice. Because that's how you treat your friends. So why are you not doing that to yourself?
Yeah.
It's that inner conversation that you have.
It's amazing, when you say it like that, it sounds like the simplest thing in the world. But I imagine that wasn't something that happened overnight. But
no, it's something I had to learn how to do.
Yeah, the skill. It's amazing that you've done that, and again, shows your strength. Just for our listeners, we had some technical difficulties because I'm a bit of a novice, but I was just saying to Becky that it sounds like she's saved herself. And you agreed, didn't you?
Yeah, I definitely agree. I am my own hero.
Yeah, I like that. Get that on the t-shirt.
Yeah.
No, that's amazing. Honestly, really inspiring. Would that be your sort of main bit of advice?
Yeah. Learning to accept things.
Yeah.
It's the bit you have to accept the things that you can't change, and change the things that you can.
Yeah. One of those, I suppose you could say mantra. It's one of those, like, they're often so true,
They are very true, and they are very true when it comes to mental health.
Yeah.
If something isn't working, then you need to change it.
Yeah.
But you have to do it in step by step bits, and it's learning, especially with all my chronic illnesses and things like that. It's learning about making the most of every day.
Yeah.
Especially with chronic illnesses, you feel like you don't get the same 24 hours, because tomorrow I could be dealing with a whole load of different symptoms that I haven't had today. So it works with mental health as well. It's making the most of now, because now is what you're living. You're not in the past. Past is behind you. The future's in front of you. You're dealing with here and now. So it's about making the most of now.
Okay. I think I'm going to hire you as my life coach. Is that okay?
Yeah, sure.
Really, like, this is some seriously inspiring stuff, and I'm just honestly like, I just caught sight of my own face, or I'm like rapt attention, like that was, yeah, it's so true. And I am honestly, like, I'm not trying to be over the top here, but I'm blown away that you have been through and continue to go through everything and all those struggles and hardships, and that's your attitude. That's, yeah, amazing.
Be your own friend.
I will try. Listeners, you need to try that as well. Honestly, I cannot thank you enough, Becky. You've been amazing. Thank you for sharing everything you did, and for that amazing inspiration. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, that's okay.
Been lovely talking to you. It really has. It wasn't easy to hear some of the stuff, and I'm so sorry you've been through what you've been through. But you're incredibly strong.
Yeah, it's how you deal with what you've been given, I suppose.
Yeah. I'm sure there are going to be people listening to this. I mean, there's always going to be people learning things, and I'm learning things, but there's also going to be people who are hopefully find some comfort and inspiration in this, particularly because a lot of what you've spoken about, people don't talk about them very openly, which is exactly why we're doing this, obviously.
And that's why I want to be able to talk to different people and be able to, I suppose, to share it and talk about it and rest it, because I know from experience and from knowing people with mental health problems and issues and things, and how hard it is to be able to speak about it and and talk. That's why I want to be able to talk about it and go, yeah, I've been through all this, and I'm still here.
Yeah.
And I'm still fighting.
No, that's amazing. Thank you.
If you have been affected by any of the topics covered in today's podcast, please see our show notes on our Facebook page for our suggested contacts. If you're interested in talking on our podcast, please get in touch through the Facebook page. We'd love to hear from you. Stay safe, you wonderful people.